Primary. The vote is 4 days away. Ron Paul's third-place finish in Iowa, since he's rising, his poll numbers, well, they make him a target. Lately, his rivals have taken to calling him and his views, especially when it comes to Iran, dangerous. When the Texas congressman arrived here in New Hampshire this afternoon, he had an answer for those critics.
Some of our opponents have labeled us, and I just want to talk about that for a minute. They call us dangerous. And in a way, we are. To their empire, that's what we're dangerous to.
Congressman Paul, thank you for your time. Let's start with the state of the race. Governor Romney wins narrowly in Iowa. He's well ahead here in New Hampshire, and we have a poll out just tonight that now shows him with a double-digit lead in South Carolina. If he goes 3-0 out of the gate, almost impossible to stop, no?
It's going to be difficult, but not impossible. I mean, it's still only 2 primaries after the 2. But history shows that if you do that, you're in a pretty strong position. But we haven't had the first primary yet. We've had a caucus, so we have to wait and see what happens on Tuesday.
So you have 2 debates this weekend.
Right.
Do you view them as maybe the last opportunity to convince Republicans? Romney's not your guy. Why would you? In New Hampshire and maybe beyond, people who watch it. Why would you say wrong guy, Mitt Romney?
Well, I don't think he's very Republican when you talk about being a conservative. We put hats on saying he's a flip-flopper, and people have called him that all along. He's been on both sides of most of the issues, and right now people are looking for somebody that will stick to their guns and not capitulate and go along to get along. So I don't think he stands out as somebody that will stand firm on conservative principles.
Senator Santorum comes out of Iowa thinking he's the conservative alternative to Romney, is he?
Depends on how you defend conservative. I'm a conservative. I want to obey the Constitution. That's the basis of conservatism. But that doesn't mean I'm a big government guy that wants to run people's personal lives. And I don't understand why conservatives think the more money you spend overseas, the more conservative you are. It doesn't make any sense. The American people are waking up to this because most of the time it's money down the drain. It contributes to a debt. It hurts our economy. So I'm a conservative across the board. I believe in small government. Republicans claim they do, but I want smaller government all the way across the board and protect personal liberties as well as getting the government out running the economy and quit running up these debt. That's why I've proposed a $1 trillion cut in 1 year.
Speaker Gingrich in our South Carolina poll has tumbled 25 points in a month. Your campaign seems to view him as a threat down there. A new mailing from the Paul campaign says this: Newt Gingrich has a long record of liberal appeasement, flip-flopping on key issues and lobbying for insider millions. I have rarely seen a candidate who represents so much of what is wrong with Washington and what is wrong with our political system. Is it personal between you and Newt? You served together for a while.
Probably not, because I've never had a cross word with him. We've been on opposite sides of the political arguments, forever. I mean, he worked pretty hard against me in campaigns, so this is nothing new. But I don't ever remember having a cross word with him. As a matter of fact, there were times when he knew exactly where I was coming from. He never bothered me when I was in Congress because he didn't think it was worth his time to twist my arm. So in a way, I thought that was respect. But, in politics, if people think he's real conservative and hasn't engaged in flip-flopping and spending money, I think we should talk about it.
As you know, you've been a target at these debates because you're doing well. Over 20% in Iowa. You're polling well here in New Hampshire, and those other guys who want to stay in the race, they need those votes. So they've come after you, and as you mentioned at the rally out here, they call you dangerous. They call you naive, especially when it comes to Iran and your views on the nuclear program. You say it's none of our business. I want to ask you specifically about the recent events. Iran says it's going to have another round of naval exercises in the Straits of Hormuz next month. It has said it would attack, we believe, if the United States sent an aircraft carrier through those oil shipping lanes to keep them open. What would President Paul do right now when Iran saber rattles like that?
Well, I think they are flexing their muscles because I don't think they have anything else left. They can't defend themselves very well against America's power. So they're just hoping that we'll back off from bombing them and destroying their country and starting another war. So, but it's not in their interest to start the war. They're trying to avert the war. So and they closed the straits or attack an American vessel? No way that's going to happen. But they are verbalizing this because, matter of fact, even these sanctions aren't wholeheartedly agreed to by the president. And Eastern Europe are quite worried about it. It's going to disrupt oil. Oil jumped up, $4 the other day because of this type of a problem. So these sanctions are not an answer. I think that's an introduction to a real problem. So I think they'll do a lot of this talking, but I think they know what's in their best interest, and for them to attack one of our vessels or close the straits under these circumstances, I think it's utterly remote.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll continue our conversation with Congressman Ron Paul a bit later in the program. Sir, stand by. Congressman Ron Paul, this year, like Barack Obama back in 2008, the Paul candidacy has captured the imagination of many young voters. We asked the 79-year-old congressman, why? Paul, you're the oldest candidate in the Republican race, and yet at this rally we were just at here in Nashua, New Hampshire, much like in Iowa, you have a room packed with young people, college students. Some people rolled their eyes and say, that's just because Ron Paul wants to decriminalize drugs. Why are they here?
I think they know what freedom means, and that's what I talk about. And they know when I talk about debt, they know they're getting a bad rap on this, and they don't like war. And they see that we've gone into war too often, and they bear the burden of it financially as well as young people will be sent over. So it's a message, I think, that is instinctively popular with a lot of people. People say, where did I get my views and when did I develop them? I think when I was born with them, but then they were knocked out of me by the establishment, by teachers and government and TV, and they teach you, oh no, you can't be that free. But young people are very principled. They like people to stand firm, and they like the idea of following. Amazing. They want you to follow the rules. You think the young people don't want to follow the rules, but they want politicians to follow the rules because they suffer abuse if the government runs roughshod over them, and they're very much into privacy. I talk a lot about the internet, and they don't want anybody messing with the internet, and identify with them.
It's great to see new voters, young people brought into the process of any political persuasion, and that's a great asset for your campaign. On the other end of the spectrum, you do get endorsements from some people in some organizations whose views are pretty outlandish and sometimes pretty outrageous. I just want to list a few. American Free Press endorses you. They market books like The Invention of the Jewish People and The March of the Titans, The History of the White Race. Don Black is the director of a white nationalist website, Stormfront. The Militia of Montana says people should defend themselves against the New World Order. Are you comfortable when you get support from people in groups like that?
No, I'm not comfortable for you making a big point out of it. It doesn't seem logical. You know, one day I got 46,000 new donors in one day and on a money bomb. And am I to know what these people think and do? All I know is if they come to me and they give me support, they have to endorse what I do, and I'm very clear on what I do. And I do not investigate them. There's no way I can do it. Happens to all the campaigns. You want to go back and check everybody that ever donated to Obama? Maybe there was a communist that donated to him. Maybe a socialist. You know, maybe a big government. Maybe the military-industrial complex donated to him so he'd keep building weapons and run these wars. So, I mean, it's something that happens. But, yeah, I denounce them automatically. I shouldn't even have to because it calls too much attention to it, because I emphasize the positive, the things that I believe in a constitution and individual liberty and a sensible foreign policy. So that to me is so incidental that I think it deserves a lot less attention.
But sometimes if a supporter says they're for you and they claim to be speaking in your name, it can cause trouble. This isn't about something like that, but there's a New Hampshire supporter for you right now. He says, New Hampshire Liberty for Paul. I want you to listen to a little bit. He put up a video on the internet that takes aim at John Huntsman. Let's listen a little bit. You hear the Mandarin there. The ad says John Huntsman, Manchurian candidate. He was the ambassador to China. What do you say
that raises more question. You already admitted it wasn't me. So why put it out there and say, oh, why do you have to defend this guy? Of course, I disavow him, and he shouldn't do it because you have one out of, you know, how many, couple 100,000, 500,000 people, I don't know how many we have, because one does that to bring that up. Just doesn't seem like, you know, a fair thing to do. Of course, I denounce him. I couldn't even hear, I haven't looked at it. But people do that. But they do it in all campaigns. And that's why it is very unfair. And you should help sort it out rather than putting people on the defense and say, hey, defend yourself against these bad guys out there. So obviously, I just disavow them and try to go on and do the thing I'm supposed to do.
The thing you're supposed to do is campaign for the nomination. But I want an honest answer. You speak often about the movement. When Ron Paul wakes up in the morning, do you see a path to the nomination, or do you see a chance to use this campaign as a platform for a movement that is critically important to you?
Why can't I do both? And some people take it out of context because I emphasize the movement and the philosophy in what I've done for all these years. At the same time I run, I mean, I started off that way and was elected 12 times, and we're having fairly good success right now. So, yes, it is a path to victory. How easy it's going to be? Obviously, it's not going to be easy. But to say it's one or the other, and therefore I'm discredited because I believe in something, I mean, this is why I'm getting support, especially from young people, is I do believe in something, and that's why that's one of the main reasons why I get a lot of votes. So I would say believing in something shouldn't be a distraction as much as a compliment for running for office, and helps me get votes. It doesn't hurt me.
And let me close with this, because the Republican rules, you ran 4 years ago, you know the rules are different this time. And so even if you don't win, Ron Paul with these strong showings, 20% in Iowa, we'll see what New Hampshire and South Carolina do. It used to be winner take all, and you don't get that many delegates, if any at all. Now you get delegates. Is your posture, you hope to win the nomination, I understand that, you just made it clear, but if you don't, look, I'm getting a big slice. I'm going to stay in for the long haul, and if I don't win, I'm going to go to the convention. A lot of people make the comparison. You could be like a Jesse Jackson was for the Democrats in the 1980s and show up at the convention and say, don't ignore my people. We want a speaking role. We want to influence the platform. Do you see that?
I think that's a good point, and that sounds like a lot of fun. It also says that it might be a way for me to promote the things I believe in, and that is a political action. So, yes, if we have something to say, who knows? They might even have something in the platform that says, maybe we ought to look at the Federal Reserve, and maybe we ought to reconsider and not going to war unless we have a declaration of war, which is very, very popular with the American people. So I would say that's one instruction I give others. I'll give myself the instruction. We ought to have a little fun in this, too, because it's serious and it's very hard work.
4 days left to New Hampshire votes. Congressman, appreciate you taking a little break for us today.
Thank you
very much.
All right.
Sure, the New Hampshire primary in 4 days is just the second vote of the